Hello R200. Today I will be going over the Culture Terror propaganda poster, which translates to Culture of Terror. Now for the English rendition, they changed it to the Liberators. Now this was made by a man named Harold Damsleth, a Norwegian who was born in Bremen, Germany. Now he lived in Germany while he was a young boy but moved to Oslo, the capital of Norway, to live with his father. Now in the early 1930s, he worked in advertising in the US and was even offered a job at Disney. But he decided to come back to Norway before the onset of World War II. In 1940, the Germans invaded Norway. Now, since Harold was part of the Norwegian Nationalist Party, he was given a job doing propaganda for the Norwegian puppet government. His main job was to help persuade Norwegians to join the German army and paint the Germans as fighting for a greater cause. Now, these three posters were most of his beginning works. The first poster shows three Norwegian women promoting the women's role of bearing children. And the second and third posters showing the Norwegian Viking roots to be very similar to those of the Nazis, with both of them trying to encourage the men to enlist into the army. For this slide, I tried to break it down as best as I could, and I categorized what each one of these was supposed to mean. Now, a lot of these are stereotypes that Europeans had of Americans, and a lot of these stereotypes are still true today, as the incarceration rate, promiscuity, the Native American hypocrisy. Now, if you want to take a look at the left-hand side at the purple incarceration, it's showing how a lot of Americans are incarcerated. A large amount of them are put in jail. Now, for every 100,000 people, there's 100 people in jail in 1944. Now, that equates to 132,456 people in jail in 1944. If you look at the promiscuity, the blue, it shows a woman half naked waving an American flag, and on the knee it shows a ribbon that says "World's Most Beautiful American." So how the Germans looked at women, they looked at them as people to bear more German soldiers. They didn't really look at them as these sexual beings that Americans do. They found it demeaning, actually. And you can see the influence of Black culture. You can see in his right hand he's holding a jazz record, and inside the cage in his chest there are two Black people dancing to jazz music, and they make them look as much like monkeys as possible. Down to his groin area you see drums, which were used in jazz quite frequently. If you look at the head of the image, you can see the KKK hood. Now, this was pointing out how Americans looked down upon the Germans and how they treated the Jews, but they treated their minorities in a very similar way. Now, if you look in the orange, you can see how the Germans thought of the Jewish influence in America. You can see the Star of David, and you can see also in his left hand how the German people believed that the Jewish people ran America. How all of the money somehow ran through the Jewish hands. Now, in the gray on each side, you can see a Native American. Now, this is really interesting because the way that Hitler wanted to spread Germany through Poland and Western Russia was very similar to the way that the Americans spreaded westward through Manifest Destiny. Now, he believed that how the Americans did it, how they took over the land and they sent their settlers to Americanize the West, was exactly what he wanted to do to both Poland and Russia. And what he called this was Lebensraum, or living space. You can see bombs destroying German cities, You can see how his left foot is a bomb, and in his left hand he also has a grenade. And the building that he's destroying, it is the Lübeck Castle in Germany. It is a very historical landmark. And there is a green circle around the poster that says, in German, "The United States will save European culture from destruction while destroying their culture." And also showing the Statue of Liberty across the sea, showing them as foreign invaders. Related works, I chose both of mine from week 11, chapter 10, The Social Protest. Both of them showing Germans during wartime. Both of these images could be seen as different types of propaganda, the first being Göring the Executioner by John Hatfield. Now in this image it shows Hermann Göring, the Reichsmarshal-in-Chief of the German Air Force. It shows him holding an axe covered in blood, emphasizing the war crimes the Nazis committed and trying to influence how you would think about them. In the second image, The Outbreak by Kathy Kollwitz. In this etching, it helps cast a negative light on the war, as Miss Kollwitz had lost her son and her grandson in both of the world wars. The Liberators propaganda poster and all of Harold Stamsle's work has had one main purpose: to try to sway the way that you perceive an issue. Now, it's important to be able to identify when a piece of art is trying to change the way that you think, but it's also important to see the point that it's trying to get across. Now, in many countries that were Axis controlled, there was widespread bombing. Most of the bombing happened in military and industrial locations, and due to the aircraft installations throughout Europe, many bombs would have been dropped from higher altitudes or at night. Now, this made the anti-air less accurate, but it also made the bombs that were dropped less accurate. So many of these bombs hit civilian locations, and an estimated 410,000 German civilians were killed. In the firebombings of Dresden alone, a mostly civilian-based city, it's estimated that as many as 25,000 civilians were killed in that raid, and the fires that took days to put out. In this image, you could see a picture just days before the bombing, and then one taken right while the fires were being put out.